Good morning, I guess. We're starting for this morning. And thank you to Frank and Chet for being here with us this morning and for an opportunity to chat with you again about your experience as advocates in the gay community. Frank and Chet are longtime advocates for the LGBT community, and they are longtime residents of Hopewell and have been a presence at many of the major events in the life of the LGBTQ community in our area and throughout New Jersey. Recently, on June 5th, to be exact, they celebrated their 43rd anniversary as a couple, and with marriage equality established, were married in 2013. Frank, in the early 1970s, was one of the early members of the first gay organization at Princeton University, and went on to be a founding member of Gay People Princeton with a focus on those living in the area rather than students and staff at the university. He continues his outreach to the LGBT community through his volunteer work at the Bayard Rustin Center for Social Justice. Chet has been involved with advocacy work on behalf of the community during the struggles for full acceptance by society and the government, including the struggles for support during the AIDS crisis and marriage equality. He currently continues his support of and outreach to the LGBT community through his digital community on Facebook. Once again, welcome.
Thank you.
As we begin, would each of you share what brought you to the realization that you could stand up for yourself and be an advocate for the gay community? And I'll let you decide which one of you goes first.
You start. Okay. Well, I was a little late coming out. I came out when I was in my mid-20s. And at that time, there was still a lot of oppression. It was mid-'80s, early '80s. And I just was not comfortable with being treated as an inferior, being treated as a criminal, not having the same rights as everyone else. And I guess my background as a Pentecostalist made me acutely aware of unfairness, of injustice. And although the Pentecostalists don't really like gay people, those are good principles to take into other parts of your life. So I met Frank fairly early after coming out, and Frank was much more involved in the gay activist community. I didn't even know that the Gay Pride Parade was coming up, and we had met in June. And he told me about it, he told me what had happened, and I thought, oh, well, that sounds like a good thing to do. And I guess I'm naturally confrontational. So I was willing to put myself out there and fight for justice. And Frank?
Well, I guess I was always somewhat political my entire life. I'm 87 years old. I have memories of Franklin Delano and Roosevelt as president. And I was always the oddball in my family. My family is very conservative, Republican, Western Pennsylvania. And as a child, I became a Democrat. Why I'm not, well, a nun told me that the Republicans were the party of the rich and the Democrats were the party of everyone else. And I asked my mother, are we rich? And she said, no. And I said, why are we Republicans? So I became a Democrat right away and became, as I grew older and entered college, I became involved in the civil rights movement, joined CORE, the Congress for Racial Equality, and then progressed to demonstrate against the Vietnam War when I lived in New Mexico. So it was always a part of my background. And once I found out about a gay organization starting on campus, even though I was reluctant to join a student organization, I became involved with it very, very early.
Thanks. Thank you. Chet, you said something that really struck me this time as you were speaking, and I don't know if you want to expand a little bit on it. One of the things you said was that what stirred you was being considered a criminal, and the fact that being gay could be a cause for being, arrested, brought to court, and even jailed. You want to expand on that a little bit? What was that? I mean, I think that's important for people to remember because it seems like so many people have forgotten that it wasn't that long ago that it was actually a criminal offense. Not only it was a criminal offense, it also was designated through the psychological and other services as a disease. So did you say a little more?
Oh, yeah. Well, when I was a teenager and I came to realize that what I felt different about was actually that I had a different sexual orientation. So I started looking up homosexuality in the libraries, and it was all bad. Gay people were mentally ill. They had gender confusion. They were child predators. They were criminals. They would do, rather vile things in their privacy. And I was reading this and I thought, no, this isn't me at all. I'm not like that. And I was hoping that someday I would find someone and that we could live a quiet, secret homosexual life. This is when I was a teenager. It was really a realistic expectation at that time. But things started to evolve, and first time I went to a gay bar, I was afraid that I was going to get arrested. They had stopped raiding gay bars at that time, but the police were still hanging around outside looking for trouble. And I was approached a few times, what are you doing here? Why are you out? So it just seemed wrong. It's pretty much what a lot of minorities experienced. Black people, Hispanic people, foreigners. They're always under suspicion, and I didn't think that was right, So I resented it. And I came to know people who had been arrested, who had been institutionalized. I had read stories of people being lobotomized for being gay, which I think is a criminal medical practice and completely unnecessary because it doesn't cure homosexuality. What it turns you into is a zombie. And I think one of the turning points in my life was seeing the movie, I forget the name of it.
Victim?
Well, Victim, yeah, that was something. But there was this documentary, Word Is Out. Oh. Yes, that came out in the 70s. And I saw gay people as they actually are, not as the media portrays them to be. And I thought, this is much more comfortable. I think I like this. I could work with that.
Well, I bought into the mental illness part of it completely. I discovered the word homosexuality in a book on sexuality that I found in my uncle's drawer when we were visiting, and I read that I was mentally ill, and I prayed that it would go away. Prayed the gay away. Did not work. I was raised Catholic, and I made a novena that was supposed to, at the end of it, grant your wish, and it didn't happen. So I spent my whole early adulthood in the closet. Even though I became active in these other organizations, I didn't come out as gay until I moved to Princeton when I was about to be 30. So I bought into the idea that I was diseased and a criminal but I didn't engage in any sexual activity, so I didn't have to worry about the criminal part. But it took me a long time to overcome that, even after I became active in the gay movement. It was through consciousness-raising groups that I belonged to, where a lot of other gay men would share their feelings, their experiences, and eventually came to not only accept that I was gay, but to be happy that I was gay, because I think there are gifts that I was given because of my sexuality in terms of being aware of other people and having the ability to empathize with other people.
I love that part about being able to empathize with others. Did that kind of experience of being able to empathize and to put yourself in someone else's shoes kind of thing, did that help you to become involved in the community then eventually? Was that something that helped you to be a part of the movement to form a community of support and encouragement?
Well, I think that becoming comfortable in my own skin made me realize that I could conquer the fear of it, because it was very scary in the early movements. I mean, I started marching in 1973, and I remember the year, I think it was maybe 2 years after the first march I was in, where we were never permitted to march on Fifth Avenue, even though the Irish marched and had their green line down Fifth Avenue. And we decided that we were going to do it without the permit. So when we started marching down Fifth Avenue, we knew that we could be herded off, arrested, or whatever. And we didn't. We were able to do the whole thing. And then the next year, they painted the line lavender.
A small victory, but
Yes.
a victory. Yeah, those are powerful moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having your experiences, and as a gay man, I've had very similar experiences growing up in that generation. What from that experience encouraged you or helped you to sense a need for forming a community to build bonds among members of the LGBT community so that others could, get beyond feeling that they were criminals or mentally ill? How did that play into your sense of, we need to build community and be a part of it?
Well, I think the community formed because of the oppression. I mean, gay people have always been here, but they lived in the shadows. And we didn't have the opportunity to form friendship bonds, which we were able to form once we came together in protest. And it changed the way we interacted with one another. It wasn't just cruising and that sort of thing. It became a real sense that we could accomplish something. And I never believed that we could accomplish as much as we have, but it was one little victory after another.
Okay, well, I think that it actually was complicated. You see, in the early days, during the worst of the oppression, gay people didn't want to be seen with other gay people. They didn't want to be labeled. And the community is rather divided. I mean, there are the controversial straight-acting gays and the more obvious gays. And there was a lot of resentment on both sides. It's like, I'm not feminine. It's like, you're too butch, you're trying to be straight. But I think that since no one else wanted us, Employers didn't want to hire us. Schools didn't want us teaching kids. We had no other choice but to bond with one another. And that actually took time. That was a slow and very deliberate movement on our part. And we had to educate ourselves about the differences in the gay community and learn to be tolerant of them. So I think that there was no one actually forming a community. I think the community was forming itself. And I think as we learn to accept other people, we learn to accept ourselves. And I think that that was a huge step in gay liberation, is to stop being your own worst enemy. And I think straight people started to join us. P. Flags rose up at about that time, who I think are heroes. My parents died estranged from me. And I accept that. They were never able to come around. But I didn't need them, and they didn't want me. So.
Do you feel that the support of the straight community that began to appear as the gay movement moved forward was something that helped bring about the acceptance and inclusion of LGBT members in the larger community? Do you feel that that was some help to bring that about?
I definitely think that was the case. I mean, as we either were forcibly out to our families or came out to our families, that acceptance seemed to grow. And now I think that maybe even a majority of families have at least one gay member. And it's pretty hard to hate someone who is a part of your family. And I think that that had a lot to do with it.
I think that that's actually the core piece of gay liberation. We were not forming a separate community away from straight people. I mean, we were separate, but there are not enough of us to create a society. So we wanted to join the larger society. We wanted straight people to accept us as their equal, as one of their own, which of course we are, and they are one of ours. So it was not to create a separate community. It was to become part of the larger community.
I think that's such an important way to look at it.
Yes.
That it was a movement to become part of the larger society.
But at the same time, we have nostalgia for the institutions that nurtured us along the way, places where we could socialize, like gay bars and gay restaurants, which now are pretty much disappeared as we've become a part of the larger society. So we have some nostalgia about that. We miss gay bookstores and things that were developed primarily to support our community now have disappeared.
Yes. That is the problem with assimilation, is that our own separate culture is dissipating. We're becoming part of the larger community, which is good, but I think that, like every other minority, we have to maintain our own separate identity within the larger society, not as opposed to it, but as a part of it.
I think that's an important point because we have lost a lot of that community sense in that regard by gaining so much in the larger society. But as you just mentioned, with any ethnic group, you need to try to preserve a little bit of your culture in the larger community. I know from my own background, we have that same
need
thing.
the support of the community at large, particularly now that we're under attack again. And that gives me confidence that no matter how hard they try, they're not going to succeed because we have become a part of the American culture as a whole, and we're not going to go away.
Yes, I think that's important. We're here, and yeah, and recognized now too,
Yeah.
which is important. Yeah, and much of this activity that you have had within the gay community has been as a couple.
Absolutely.
And that's something that I think is a special gift that you have brought to the community, being a long-term couple, 43 years, which is long-term in the straight world as well as in the gay world.
Yes.
So how do you feel that being a couple, the presence of a couple in the gay community has impacted your involvement and maybe your advocacy?
I think it's huge. Most of the really big gay activists have done it as a person. They may be coupled, but it's usually just one person pushing the agenda. But being seen as a couple, I think, is incredibly important. I've had young people all through our time approach us and, they say, well, I love your matching outfits. How long you been together? And we would tell them, 10, 20, 25, 40, 43 years. And they would just be amazed. And it's, oh, you give us hope. I'm hoping for something like that in my life. And I think that is one of the things that's been largely missing from gay activism, is coupleness. There's a lot more of it now. There are websites and things like that where gay couples talk about being couples. But Frank and I are a very visible gay couple because of the matching outfits and our activism. And I think that just being a couple, being seen, gives these kids hope. Makes them think that, oh, there's another way of life. I don't have to go out to the bars all the time. I don't have to go from one relationship to another. They understand now that they can actually find the little white house and the picket fence and the dog and sometimes even children. Yeah. So I think that is an accomplishment that Frank and I are both proud of.
Yeah, the dream you just described is one that those of us growing up a few decades ago never had. So it's wonderful that is now a possibility and that you can be an example of that. Mm-hmm. And I understand how that applies within the LGBTQ community. But do you think that possibly your presence as a couple living in Hopewell, owning your house and all those things that couples do, also impacts how we are perceived by the straight community?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Hopewell itself has changed enormously. I've lived there for 50 years, even before Chet and I got together. But at the early stage, we were really kind of considered weird, if nothing else. We are now celebrated in the community, oddly, where we go to the flag raisings and we proudly display our rainbow flag on the front of our house. And even though there are only a couple other gay couples in town, there are dozens of pride flags flying all over the place. And I think that is a part of the overall acceptance that we experience.
Yeah, I think that we're a lot less threatening as a couple.
Oh, yeah.
There was this joke video on Facebook today where this video back from the marriage equality thing says, if you don't let us get married, we're going to marry your girlfriends. And this straight man says, please, take that video down. If my wife knew that this was an option, I'd be screwed. So I think that just being in a couple makes people feel a lot more comfortable with us.
and I've been in a couple of relationships for many years, and I also found within the straight community, it has been a real blessing to be able to share with them that they would ask like, well, what is it like? And I'm like, well, we have the same discussions you have. We have to make the same decisions about finances. We have to make the same decisions about the house. We have the same arguments about who has to load the dishwasher. And I think that could be such an eye-opener. So living as a gay couple in the community could be a real...
And it's also made us somehow less dangerous. I mean, I think that a lot of heterosexual men, particularly, had a fear that they were going to be compromised, that there were people that were going to hit on them. And you could, well, one of the big aspects of this that I remember, we went to Provincetown every summer, and you could see the straight date visitors come by, walking down the street. The women would be holding on to their men in fear. And as the movement progressed and as we became more accepted, it turned around to be the opposite. Women were loved when their husbands were found to be attractive by gay men. And the whole dynamic became more of a party than something that was to be afraid of.
And one other thing, the straight men loved having pictures with us. It's like, and they would say, "Here, be on either side of me." And we'd have our hands around their waist and taking pictures. So they grew comfortable with it.
And that's what needed to happen,
Yeah.
I believe, for us to get the full acceptance. Yeah. Now, you've mentioned a few times your matching outfits.
Yes.
And we'd be remiss if I didn't ask you to, if you're open to doing this, to share with us why it started, when it started, and what's it about?
Well, I will start that out because of the known fact that gay men in society become invisible when they turn 50. We would be going, as I said, to Provincetown every year, and when I turned 50, I could just see people look right past me, but they always looked at my handsome younger husband. And when he turned 50 and began to experience being invisible, he decided to do something about it.
Yes. I was not having it. I had been very attractive. Frank was very attractive when we first got together, and he was for many years afterwards. He still is. I mean, how many 86-year-olds look like this? But I did not like not being seen. So I told Frank that we should dress alike, and he was completely against it. So I told him, next year when we go on vacation, we'll choose 3 days where we'll wear matching outfits. Now, they weren't really special. They were just summer clothes that matched. And every time we did that, people would talk to us. So I told him, next year, we're going to do this every day. And it worked out a lot better. Now, it evolved over time. People started saying, "Oh, your socks don't match, or your watches don't match, or your glasses don't match." So we started being a lot more careful about the matching outfits. And Frank and I are both from artistic backgrounds. I decided that this was my art. So I started putting together outfits that were more colorful, more daring, more stylish, outfits that said, "Here we are."
And the interesting thing was that we did this mostly just on vacation. We didn't do this here locally. And one summer when we came back and we arrived in Hopewell, we found all these oxen that were part of the Hopewell Artists Guild. They commissioned artists throughout the area to decorate and stylize these oxen. And when we arrived in town and we saw them, we thought, oh, wouldn't it be clever if we wear some of our matching outfits in colors that keyed with the oxen? And we started doing this. And then it became a big thing. Artists would come by, seeing us photo, oh, would you do one with our oxen? And finally, we did a series of over 60 matching outfits coordinated with the oxen, either by theme or by color. And that's what established us in our own community, because at the end of this, and they were auctioning off the oxen at a special fundraising event, we were the auctioneer's assistants, and we would dress in matching tuxedos and pull the the oxen on wheels around while the bidding was taking place. And that kind of cemented our relationship in the community.
Actually, that made us international stars. Our pictures, Frank didn't even want me to post these, but the Hopewell Arts Council said, post pictures of yourself with the oxen. And we started posting the pictures that we had with coordinating outfits. And it just blew up from there. And then people started sharing it. People from other countries were commenting on our pictures. And we went to New York, and people would know who we were because of these pictures. And it was a brief time, but it was very special.
And that's what started us wearing matching outfits here as well.
Well, we've always worn them to gay pride events.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I know it's something that many of us always look forward to when we see you, to see which matching outfit it will be that day. So we appreciate your artistic skills
thank you.
visible to all of us. So thank you. You've been sharing a number of things this morning, actually, about how successful things have been. But I know there's also been some setbacks. There has also been some controversy and some difficulties. Could you share with us maybe one or two of those that you experienced, and how did you move beyond that? Because we are in a time where we're probably experiencing some more, and we need to know how to get beyond those.
Well, I think because of our notoriety, Frank and I are kind of above that. No one directly attacks us anymore because it would be very uncool. But I'm aware of the attacks on the gay community and the trans community especially. We have transgender friends, and they're perfectly lovely people. There's nothing wrong with them. And we can't understand why is this animosity, because most people don't even know a transgender person, and transgenderism has no effect on their lives whatsoever. The worst thing that can happen is that a trans man will go into the men's room, and I personally have never felt danger from them. So I think it's fascism, really. Pick a target, pick a vulnerable minority, and go after them. And it's not just the gay and trans community. They're going after immigrants. They're going after Muslims. They're going after anything that they can say, hey, they are different from us. They are not us. And we are all us. There is no us and them. There is us and other us. So I personally think it's a bump in the road. I don't think it's going to last. I don't think that it can last. This fever that people are in right now, they're going to get over it because it didn't exist before, and it's not really sustainable. You can't live in a divided society, and most people are not even that angry. I've only come across a few MAGA people who spout these insane things, and I'm not sure that they even believe them. They just think, well, this is an excuse for me to behave badly. This justifies, my being an asshole. And it doesn't, and it shouldn't, and they shouldn't aspire to be assholes. So
But this doesn't imply that life has always been easy for us, because it hasn't been. I mean, I was lucky to be primarily employed in the university community, where there was a lot more acceptance, but I know that it held me back in terms of promotions and so on. Chet was actually fired from jobs because he was gay. And we kind of put that aside because things are so much better now. But it wasn't an easy road by any means.
this is true.
And he's not allowed to talk about it, unfortunately, because he fought against what was happening to him. And he got a small stipend. Then he had to sign an non-disclosure thing, so he's not permitted to talk about it.
Yeah. And fortunately, that does seem to be happening less and less.
Yes.
But I
definitely.
think we are all still aware that there are instances of young people kicked out of their family and living on the streets. We still know of instances, work discrimination. So there is still some work to be done, and we still need advocates to step up and for the community to speak out. Because while we've come a long way, there's still ahead of us some challenges.
Can I touch on that for a moment?
Certainly.
The Stonewall riots back in 1969, most of the participants, most of the rioters, were not the people who were in the bar. Most of them fled and went to the subways and went home to their suburban homes. It was the kids on the street, mostly kids who had been thrown out of their homes for being gay and were living on the streets of New York, who fought the police. Teenagers with anger and justifiable anger, who decided they had had enough. They did not like what was going on. And the new kids, they have more resources now, and thank God for that. Not enough, unfortunately, but there is hope for them. So I think that there's real power in the youth. I think that they are the new Stonewall generation coming up.
And I know that both of you are continuing your work and participation in the community.
A lot less lately.
A lot less. Well, as we get older, it's time for that younger generation to step up and carry on. The world that they're living in is a very different world than the one that we grew up in and have lived most of our lives in. So it's important for them to address the world that they're living in. But you two are still involved, and I was wondering if you could share with us, maybe start with you, Frank, about your work still at the Bayard Ruskin Center, where you still are working with the community for support.
I'm one of the oldest volunteers there. I act as a safe space host on Mondays. When the Bayard Ruskin Center found its new location on Stockton Street, we were initially only open 5 days a week, but now we have enough volunteers that we're open from 10 to 2 every day, including Sunday. And originally I got involved when the first Princeton Pride Parade took place in 2019. And I began to work on graphic design for them. Now they do it on their own primarily, but I helped to develop their logos and various things because of my skill as a graphic designer. I spent my whole career in graphic arts and in book design, so it became a natural thing for me to keep my skills going after I retired from Princeton University Press. And I really felt that it was important to re-energized myself. I mean, I had become very complacent I spent the first few years of my retirement just retiring. And when this opportunity came along, it was invigorating. And I am able to talk to young people, which, since I no longer work in a university setting where young people came and went all the time, this keeps me kind of young.
You used a term there that I think would help us to understand a little bit more about. You said that it is a safe space. What is that, and why is that important in the community?
A lot of the people who come in are people that are troubled. They've heard about the center through one source or another, perhaps out in Jersey or some other magazine source, and I'm not able to help them in any concrete way, but as a voice to listen to, and someone who has experienced setbacks in my own life. It's a cliche phrase that things are going to get better, but it's true. And I think that a lot of the people who come by need to hear that. And other people come by just to celebrate, to roam through the books in our library, and feel that this is a place that is safe, warm, inviting, and can be fun. We have game nights and other youth groups and craft events. So it makes me feel that I can still contribute.
And you are, in a very meaningful way. I think you're making an impact on the community. And Chet, I know you've continued your participation and advocacy in the community through your digital community on Facebook. Could you share with us a little bit about how that started and how you see that as part of your advocacy and work in the community?
Okay, well, that started kind of by accident. A friend of mine, a singer, of our acquaintance, we knew him. We were trying to say, we never know when you're going to be performing in the area. And he says, well, you got to go on Facebook, and you can follow me on Facebook and see what's going on, where I'm going to be at any given time. And I was against it, because I don't like the idea of talking computer text with people. I'd rather talk to people, meet them, find out what's going on. But, after I'd signed up, I had this page, and it was just sitting there, and I figured, well, it keeps asking me, what's on your mind? And I thought, well, I've got a lot to say. Let me just put it on Facebook. I didn't expect anyone to read it, because I didn't think anyone knew who I was. And almost immediately, I started getting responses. And then I was encouraged, I guess, to write more. And one of the things that bothers me is that there is no gay history, or no real gay history. There are a lot of people who talk about gay history, but don't actually know gay history. And I've read a lot, and I've lived a lot of it. I was there. I was there when these things happened. So I started writing what I experienced, what I was seeing, what I remember, what I have heard from other people. I've had the privilege of actually meeting several of the original rioters at Stonewall. So many of them have passed at this point. But I got that brief time where I got to talk to them. And they told me things quite different from what is promoted, let's say. And the gay community did this with an agenda. They wanted these stories to go out because they thought that they were inspiring. But most of them were not accurate. So I started writing about that, and then I started writing about my feelings and my own experiences as a gay man, what I have experienced, what I feel, what's going on. And I picked up a sizable following. I didn't set out to do it. I don't get any money from Facebook. I could. They want me to commercialize my page, but I don't want to be responsible for anyone's editing, for their censorship. So I'm just posting what I feel, what I want to say. And I've had a lot of encouragement. People have told me that what I'm posting is important. It's very encouraging. And I get people who disagree with me. And people who insist that I'm not right on certain things that I post. And it's, well, you're entitled to your opinion. And I've had a couple of right-wing trolls who I block and delete. So,
But one of the things that our friend encouraged us to join Facebook was so that we could share pictures. Because we would meet him on vacation in Provincetown, and we could exchange pictures that way. And I think that one of the things that has made Chet's page really pop was that he integrates his essays with photographs of what we're doing. And I think that visual style, along with his writing, is what has grown his audience enormously.
well, we are unusual. There are very few older gay couples who do what we do. So we have become symbols. It's nice.
It is.
Yeah.
And not only is it nice, it's important. We need to have symbols. We need to have mentors for people to look to, who you can look to and say, okay, they've done it. I can do that. There's some hope for me too. So just your presence in what you're doing in both situations are wonderful ways of supporting the community that you have been so involved in and have really worked to advance through the years. And I think that's, yeah. So I want to thank you for all that you've done.
You're welcome.
For all the work you've done for the LGBTQ community, for your presence, and for your humor and warmth that you bring to the work, and for being there for the next generations to look up to as they find their way in a world that
Well, thank
is
you
different.
for
So thank you.
allowing us to be here. We appreciate it.